Hey guys, so I'm recording this video because I want to make a point of actively paying attention to the things that I do for myself and with myself to help me through life and things that I go through, whether it be tumultuous, tougher things or normal day-to-day things. And being someone who actively practices a bunch of different techniques to try to get myself into a mental space that I want to be in. I can only imagine that so many other people are going through the same things or very similar things that I'm going through, because so many of us are so similar in so many ways. So I figure if I can do certain things for myself that help me overcome or deal with or just learn how to live harmoniously with things in my life, I imagine that other people might be able to find uses for some of the tactics or mental exercises that I use to help them in their own endeavors. And again, not just things that are tough to get through, but just normal things. We have so many stimuli in our lives, and so rarely do we get given an opportunity that seems like a good one to find stillness and space within our own minds. So, given that we're always so excited, so busy, I think it's a really good practice for ourselves and for others when dealing with each other to take some time for ourselves to really understand what's going on in our own minds so that we can better apply ourselves to our own lives and situations, and then also to helping other people who are going through really similar things that we're going through. So I was asked a few times recently about some New Year's resolutions, and I know that there's a plethora of different things we can do to better ourselves. And I feel like every year we get asked this question, and I feel like there's different layers and levels of ways to answer this question. And I feel like some of them we see come and go pretty quickly by January or February, whether it be a gym membership and using it, or a diet. You get the point. And so when asked this question, I really thought, what are some concrete things that I can do that I can tangibly, maybe not quantify, but see in terms of progress. A really good friend of mine said that she wanted to be a better friend, and I asked her what she meant by that. And of course, I think her answer was perfect in that she wanted to be a genuine, loving person who expresses her love. So I think her ultimate answer was that she wanted to let her friends know that she loves and cares about them. Because even though she's thinking this all the time and she tries to express it simply through living in a loving manner with them or towards them when she's interacting with them, it's still hard to look back on your own life or maybe year and say, have I done this? And concretely be able to conclude yes or no. So I thought about this question for my own self, and I was thinking that there's a lot of things I would like to do in terms of maybe the company that I'm starting. Do I want to make a certain amount of sales happen or get into a certain amount of distribution channels, et cetera, et cetera. But that I don't think is actually deep down the kind of changes that most of us are looking to make in our lives, unless that is a stepping stone for then furthering something more existential in terms of our happiness or our harmony with the world or balance. So in contemplating this, and let me give you a little background. I don't really know what I want to do, like most of us. But I do know that I want to be happy. And I think that we can all agree that we do most of the things, if not all, the things that we do in order to find peace within ourselves. And that can be different for everyone. And we all have our own devices and means to getting there. I think that for me, it's undoubtedly been through understanding my mind, through meditation and other practices that I do to try to achieve this goal. So, with that being part of my background going into this, I was thinking, how can I combine these two things? This pivotal moment in the year where we try to do something to better ourselves, and my my desire to find peace for myself and for others. I don't think that those two things are separate from each other. Helping other people helps you, and you helping yourself allows you to help other people better. So I think those two things are not mutually exclusive. And communicating these messages, I get into such good conversations with so many people, and this isn't just people who sit down and meditate. This is every person who I've gotten the opportunity to speak with about things that really inspire them to do what they do, or to really break down the motivations behind the lives they're living. And we're all really on the same path, I think. And these conversations have inspired me to really consider how to expand the breadth of this process of thinking about why we do what we do and how we're doing them. And then maybe even just what we're actually doing to try to achieve the things that we want to do. It's really easy to have lofty goals or even smaller goals, but putting into place actual systems for getting there can be tough. We know what we want, but sometimes we have such an overload of information and opportunity. As millennials know, the swiping mentality is really hard to get away from, and not just in terms of your relationships with other people, but with the things that you do and the things that you want to do. You have every way to get there, whether it be taking a class to learn something, or reading a book, or just going and doing something, or learning about some distant land. You don't have to travel there to learn. You can have everything at the tips of your fingers so quickly and so easily. So we almost get sort of hands in the air. We don't really know how to go about doing the things we want to do. And that's kind of where I was. I am still. I don't know exactly how to do what I want to do, but I know that I want to help benefit other people's lives, and simultaneously my own. And I figured, with such a broad reach with our digital world now, doing something that scales so effectively. A conversation between two people might have resounding effects that continue to reverberate through other conversations that they then have, but really effective methods for disseminating teachings are so commonplace in our lives now, from podcasts to videos to any online blog. There's a million ways that you can communicate to people, but it just takes doing it. So this is my effort to try to bridge those two wants of helping myself and helping others, and then simultaneously doing something that is actively tangible, that I can look back on. I don't want to say quantify, but I can really see my progress. So if I can use this opportunity to communicate to people, whether it's through social media or even just through sending videos to people, I'm going to try to do that. And I don't know necessarily what my goal is this upcoming new year. I don't know if I want to do one video a week or one video every couple weeks or a month, but I'll probably find out what my capacity is or what feels right as I do it. So this is the starting point for me. I want to try to make this relatively consistent, that I maybe share a thought with people who want to hear it about what my take is on the things that I'm going through, and that can be both in my immediate circumstantial life or maybe just internally in my mind, and those again aren't mutually exclusive either. But I'm going to start off with today. I got up and I had a really good morning, and then found myself feeling sort of I don't want to say bored, but no, I didn't feel any strong urge to do anything, which isn't necessarily good or bad. I think it's totally okay to simply be and simply be okay with not doing anything. I think that's a, something to be sought after. But mine wasn't necessarily a peaceful one. Mine was sort of a restless boredom where nothing sounded fun, but I wanted to do something, I guess, in simple terms. And because I didn't know what to do, my decision was to do something, and then I'd figure it out. So I went on a beach walk, which I'm blessed to live a block from the beach. So I walked out and watched the waves, and I felt the wind on my face, and I saw people, and almost immediately my mood was changed from not a bored, anxious, sort of restless feeling, but it shifted to sort of content to simply experience what I was experiencing, because there was so much stimuli coming in, but not in a forced manner. It was simply I was the observer of these stimuli, and it was really enjoyable to just be there with what I was feeling. And I think that this idea of not really knowing what you want, we tend to view it, especially in Western civilizations and culture, as unproductive. Not really knowing what you want to do, and then not doing anything about it. We're designed and we're geared and we're conditioned to always be doing something. So being okay with not doing anything, I think, is the first step to finding a little bit of space and stillness. So not criminalizing yourself for just simply being calm and being still is a really big one, and that then allows you to get a wonderful opportunity to observe what's happening, because you're not resisting your feelings of being chill and relaxed and not doing much. You're accepting that. Then, since you're not doing anything and you're okay with it, now you get to start really seeing what's going on. And when I say this, I don't just mean the beach around you and the beautiful scenery, or the low energy bedroom, whatever it is, wherever you are feeling anything. If you stop and you just feel it, then you get a rare opportunity to see what is causing the things that you're feeling to be felt. What is actually going on in your mind, in your experience? And I use those two words, mind and experience, sort of interchangeably. Our minds are without a doubt the reason for our experience. They allow us to experience our experience. So observing your mind is observing your experiencer. And when I say your, I mean you are your experience. So when you stop and see what's actually going on in your experience, you're sort of getting to the common denominator of all our day-to-day experiences. You're getting to the most simplified, purest version of our normal consciousness. And I find this to be both liberating and fascinating. We often feel like the things around us are the causes for what we're going through internally, and we tend to allocate responsibility for the way we're feeling to the things that we're picking up on sense-wise. So, we have tough coworkers, and we have gloomy days, and we have high energy rooms filled with people, and then we sort of say, well, it's because of this thing that's happening outside of my mind that is causing my mind to act the way that it's acting. But really what's happening is there's constant change happening outside of your mind. Your environment is never the same from one moment to the next. And when you stop and you take the time to pay attention to your mind, then you start to realize that your mind is also constantly changing. And that's because your experience externally and internally, from your physical body, from the chemicals that are firing, to whether it's cold or warm in the room, to the thoughts you're thinking, all of these things affect the state of your mind. So when you take the time to observe your mind, you can start to see how your mind reacts to these different stimuli. And the reaction, that's the key part. When you're reacting to something, usually, whether we know it or not, it's happening automatically. So the second, a loud car drives by us, or I just had a Harley pass me in the street as I was walking home from the beach, and those machines are so goddamn loud, and instantly when I heard that guy rev his engine, I wanted to get irritated. I almost wanted to, yell "shut up" or something, and that was instant. I didn't create the experience of hearing that motorcycle, and I definitely did not create the little twinge of annoyance that pinged through my brain. But when I stopped and I started paying attention to that reactive response, when I observed myself, the emotions, and this is physical and mental, start to respond in that way, it made it really clear that that wasn't me who decided to be annoyed. That was an automatic response. That was almost as not myself as the motor making that noise. But then because I was able to stop and observe what was happening internally from that external factor, it totally subsided. That emotion completely dissolved. And the next moment I was walking on the street, and the experience that I had just had was a lifetime ago. And we experience this all the time when we get distracted. We'll be doing something, and the next thing we know, it's a completely different moment. Our experience is completely changed, and it's like a mini time travel almost. And that's almost the experience we have day to day in every situation, with things coming and going, and our mind constantly in flux from reaction from one thing to another thing, and then a thought pops up, and we're sort of always jumping to the next thing. And it's usually reactively. Usually we're not the ones who are deciding, okay, I'm going to respond to this in a certain way. It's usually just that it happens, and then we deal with what happens, and then the next thing happens, and then we deal with that, and then the pattern and cycle continue. So I think the key takeaway here is that if you start to just observe what is happening on a reactive level, if you start to say, okay, what am I feeling? And then, it's really easy to think, okay, well, I'm feeling mad because of that. But if you don't even get into why you're feeling, but what are you feeling? What is the experience you're having right now? That roots you into what's actually going on right now. And now a certain degree of liberation from the past arises, and your experience now is the only one that matters, because that's the only one that you're paying attention to. In a non-ideal example, I would say, if something really, really crazy was going on in someone's brain, and they didn't have the ability to think about or compare the past to the present, they would be sort of like a dog, right? They would be sort of just, you could yell at your dog and then give your dog a treat, and that dog is a totally happy, treat-fed dog now, and it doesn't even remember or conceive of being yelled at. So we can almost be in a certain state of full presence if we allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling. If you really just open yourself up to it, one, you notice that you're always changing, so you're not going to be locked into feeling restless or bored. You're going to be simply feeling what you're feeling, and then as you continue to move forward and feel, that'll change. And we can all think back on a day that it was, it seemed that we were the loneliest, most depressed person, and then a day where we felt like we were on top of the world, or somewhere in between, and it's always changing. And the nature of our reality and experience is impermanence. So as we continue to focus on the present moment, we start to recognize this impermanent quality of our experience to be truer and truer. And then we start to realize also that these emotions, these flare-ups of, whether it's a good or bad emotion, those are just as impermanent as the scenery around us. And that's, of course, all relative. A moment of anger is only as significant as the significance you give it. So if you assign 5 minutes or 10 minutes or one moment to be a long or a short time, it doesn't actually matter besides how you're experiencing that, because 5 minutes can last a lifetime and 5 minutes can last a second. But it's all relative to how you're perceiving what's going on around you and inside of your mind. So when we allow ourselves to observe that flare up or that change in our external or internal environment, then all of a sudden they seem to not last as long because you're not attached to them. So not only do they seem to have less power over you, they actually have less power over you because they literally leave your experience sooner because you start paying attention to them. And as you start to pay attention to them, now you're rooted in the present moment, which is constantly changing. So if you're fixated on nothing besides what you're feeling, then the present moment changes and your experience changes, and now you're feeling something new and you're focused on that new thing. So you're just constantly updating the experience without attachment to the experience you were just having a moment before. And that is such a strong tool for any time where we're feeling any type of way, especially if it's a way that we don't want. And not wanting something can be just as bad as wanting something potentially. But if you really focus in on the things that you do or don't want, and you stop and think that they're going to happen anyways, and you just allow yourself to feel them, then the attachment isn't there as much. You're just feeling them. You're not saying I'm an angry person. You're not saying I'm a happy person. You're just saying I feel happy, or I feel flustered or annoyed. And as you focus on that feeling, then things change, and then now you're focused on, maybe you feel like you're a focused person and you feel content to be really engaged in something that you're doing, and then now that's your present moment, and then it'll change, and then maybe you're tired and you're not a tired person, you're feeling tired, but the next moment maybe your best friend walks in the door and now you're excited, and then you're not an excited person, you're just simply the experience of excitement, and then that'll change. And as long as we're open to these changes and we're constantly there, present and aware of these changes, then no change that comes has any power over you, because you know that within the next moment, that experience will be one that you're not having anymore. But what happens usually is we get stuck into these expectational roles where we say, I am this type of person. And then as we live life, we say, well, because I'm this type of person, I react this way. So it's normal that I'm annoyed with that Harley because I hate loud noises, and that's just how it is. But of course, that's a conditioning, that's a role that we're deciding to play. And usually deciding is unconscious. So we've decided to play that role, and then we continue to play it, even though the present moment, your experience internally and externally do consistently change. So learning to focus on the present moment allows you this freedom from that sensation of being bogged down with some role. And that's really powerful. It's really powerful to take the time to notice what's happening inside of you, and take the time to be okay with not actively engaging all your senses and being stimulated all the time. It's okay to simply slow down and relax. Silence is an amazing phenomenon. We have a hard time conceiving of being in silence all the time because we're so constantly filled with stimulation from noise. But silence and serenity, those are experiences that we can have that allow us to look at our own experience better than most opportunities. So being able to look at your experience then perpetuates itself, because now you're more aware of yourself experiencing your awareness. And then you get less and less entangled with the constant inputs. So I initially planned this video to be maybe 10 minutes, and now it's 25 minutes. So I've definitely gone over my time limit. But again, this is my first one, so I'll try to get more consistent with these, and maybe I'll get more organized and write down certain points I want to talk about. But I really hope that whether this finds ears that are receptive or not, I hope that in doing this video, I will help myself not only organize my thoughts better so that I can then communicate more effectively, but maybe some people will listen and find some truth or some significance in what I'm saying. And I'm doing this, one, to further perpetuate the conversations about our experiences, but also to help anyone who might feel a certain degree of resistance to something that's happening, whether it's an emotion or an external circumstance or an internal one, beyond emotions, thoughts that are maybe not benefiting you, or feel like they're on repeat, or are a story that might not be in any way true outside of you telling yourself it. So if anyone wants to reach out, I'm so happy and so excited to talk about the things that we're going through, because we're all going through so much of the same thing, and we're all on the same team. There's no me compared to him, other than our experience that connects us, that allows us to help each other along with our own rides. Because like I said earlier on in the video, us helping each other is helping ourselves. We feel better and we do better when we help each other, and in turn other people do better, which allows us to be better because they are better at hearing us out, and they're better at hearing each other people out. So I hope this is the beginning of maybe a consistent kind of open thought journal that we can all have with each other. So feel free to reach out, and I very much look forward to hearing from people, and I'm always sending people love and good vibes. I hope that everyone's gearing up for a happy holiday season where they can enjoy themselves and find some quietude and space.